Good morning. It is, what is it? Tuesday, August 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10. August 10th at about 7:30 in the morning. We're starting really early today, and I'm hoping I can get this done before the gardeners come with the blowers and the lawnmowers, because then we won't be able to do anything. Anyways, welcome. If you're up and you're interested in having a little fun with me, this is what I call scanning, Sqanning. Scanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. So the first thing you might think is, well, what do I need to relax for in the morning? Why would I need to worry about relaxing in the morning? I've been sleeping all night. I haven't been working. I haven't been thinking about anything. Oddly enough, I find frequently that I benefit most from scanning in the morning. You've had an entire night of dreaming, maybe concerns, worries, your muscles are sort of stiff from not moving around, and relaxing your body, relaxing your musculature can get you off to a great day, get you off to a great start. It sets you back to zero. It sets you to a neutral place, and from there you can approach things with a clear mind. In any case, I certainly had a bunch of strange dreams and so forth last night, and over the course of the evening, these things are what are called structures. They start to accumulate. Their belief systems, their thought processes that start to develop and form in your mind and kind of settle into your very being, and you become more rigid. And when you can clear all that away, it's very freeing. I'm convinced on a certain level that older people, as you get older, the reason older people start to get more rigid and inflexible and fearful and so forth is because they've built up so many structures over the course of their life that they're unwilling to let go of, that it limits them. It starts to restrict them. So I think that scanning at all levels, at any age, is beneficial because it frees you. It frees you. Okay, so again, scanning is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. It's spelled Sqanning, just to kind of be different, but it is referencing the concept of scanning, as in scanning your body, moving through your body, which is what we're going to ultimately do, releasing pockets of muscular tension. Now that's all we focus on here, is the release of muscular tension as a means to achieve this deep state of relaxation, both mental, physical, and emotional. Why not think about it? Why not say a mantra? Why not read a book? Why not any of that stuff? We're trying to move away from anything that involves contraction. Okay, we're trying to expand. See, scanning is based on the premise, and I'll just reference, as I always do, the person who first initiated these ideas in my mind, Thaddeus Golas, Golas. He wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, and he talks about the two basic forces in life being contraction, squeeze your hands together, see what that feels like, and expansion, 3, 2, 1, release. Feel that difference? Do it again. Squeeze, contraction, 3, 2, 1, release. So in life, we vacillate between those two states, contraction, expansion. Contraction, expansion. That's the natural process of life. Anything you see, feel, think, do, say, experience is either in a state of contraction or expansion. Our bodies are a contraction of sorts, a bringing together of materials to form a human being. And when we die, all of that will expand and dissipate into dust, atoms, and then possibly reform into something else. So we start these sessions on the premise that a lot of the problems we have in life are because of over-contraction. We're thinking too much. We form too many rigid ideas, either political, religious, social. We've physically contracted. We've become stiff, and what we need to do is expand, move in the opposite direction, not to become completely expanded, which of course means dissipation and disappearance into the universe. We want to maintain our human state, but to balance contraction, expansion, centered. So if we start with the assumption that, generally speaking, if you have problems in your life, you're not feeling good, you're overly contracted, then all we want to do is move ourselves into a more expanded direction. And so we can become, again, centered. We naturally tend to move towards contraction. That's making an effort. That's pulling forces and materials and things together to advance an agenda. That's life. That's great. But we want to learn how to expand. And when you walk down the supermarket aisle and you see the complete row of wines and liquors and things like that, you realize how much people desperately want to expand, because that's a chemical expansion. Alcohol is a way of chemically expanding. We ingest something which chemically induces expansion, and we feel better from that. That's why we like it. Unfortunately, I think alcohol and drugs, which we also use, have side effects and can build dependency. So what we're trying to do here is build a technique that we can use on our own to expand. So let's just get started. That's enough by way of introduction. Again, let's start with the basic preliminary steps, which are these. As we showed you before, squeeze your hands together, tight, 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 and just recognize for a moment and feel and experience what it is to contract. And squeeze very tight, because we do make an effort in life. We do work hard to try to achieve, and that's good. That's strength. See how good it feels to feel strong? But of course, if you hold on to this for any length of time, your hands start to get tired. You start to feel restricted. You can't move, stiff, painful. And you know instinctively, okay, that's enough. I need to expand. And we have that option. So on my count, I want you to completely release the tension in your hands, and I want you to feel the difference between contraction and expansion. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and release. All the pressure's off. Drop your hands to your sides. Take a deep breath. And just sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. So we just added 3 elements to this process: squeeze and release to indicate the muscular sensations of expansion; deep breaths, which are expansive by nature. When you're holding your breath, you're contracted. When you take a breath, you're expanding. So that's another physical way of moving yourself into an expanded state. All of these are physical actions, not mental, not intellectual processes. Physical steps you can take to expand. Because when you eliminate the thinking process, it's a much more direct route. Instead of thinking, why should I do this? How should I do this? What does this mean? You just do it. And we could talk about that another time, but in life, a lot of times, just doing it is a very effective way to achieve something, not thinking about it. And then the third step was stillness and silence. The opposite of stillness and silence are motion and noise. Now, we tend to move. We tend to have activity when we're trying to contract. We take steps, and we tend to say things and think things. These are contractions. So we do the opposite when we want to expand. We are perfectly still, and we are completely silent. Again, physical steps to send your body and your very being a message that you are now moving away from contraction to expansion. And as I always like to mention in every session, the beautiful thing about the contraction-expansion continuum is that you can't contract and expand at the same time. You can't squeeze your hands together and release the tension in your hands at the same time. So the moment you begin to expand, you've stopped contracting. And this is what makes the process so effective. Just start. Just start. Once you've started expanding, even in the smallest amount, you have moved away from contraction. This is something you can do at any point in the day, at any time in the day, anywhere, anytime. These are simple physical steps you can take. Now you say, well, it's not always appropriate, or maybe I'm somewhere where I can't do that. There are aspects to this technique that you can do anywhere, anytime. No one will ever know what you're doing. You could do it on your own. You could do it in a crowd of people. You could do it sitting in an office. You can do it before, as I have, auditions. And small, expansive steps are all that are required. That's why we call it the incremental release of muscular tension. So let's do the preliminary steps a few more times. And again, if we start to hear lawnmowers or leaf blowers, I'll probably have to wrap this up. I'm trying to squeeze this in before they start. I know it's early, but as I said, sometimes that's the best time. We're going to do these preliminary steps, and then we will get into what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the actual focus on muscular release throughout the body. Muscular release. As you release the muscles, the body expands, which influences the mind. The brain, like a muscle, holding on to obsessive thoughts and ideas and worries and concerns, expands, and the grip it had on those thoughts releases, and they float away, and you're left with a clear, empty, peaceful mind. Here we go again. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. See what that feels like? Okay, that's contraction. A good thing until it's done too much, and then we're overly contracted. Over contraction can take the form of thinking too much, worrying too much, exerting your physical body too much till you come to a point of tension that you can't release, causing pain and discomfort. Just being very active, overly active in certain ways, taking certain steps, over-contraction can occur at any time. And if you start to tune into this, and keep your hands squeezed so you start to really feel what it feels like. As you start to tune into this, you'll start to see in your day where you are. Am I more overly contracted, or am I expanded? And you begin to register that, and you'll know when it's time to expand. So 3, 2, 1, here we go. Release. Feel the difference? Drop your hands to your sides. Take 3 deep breaths. 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. And it's important that you not move a muscle. That sends a very strong signal to your body. It's something we rarely do. Not move at all. Continue to breathe. Absolute stillness and silence, 30 seconds. Here we go. Deep breath. So now you've expanded. I mean, you may say, I don't feel any different, but something's changed. Something's changed. You took a deep breath, which is something we sometimes forget to do. Sometimes people say, you're not drinking enough water. Well, yes, that's true. You should drink a lot of water. And then you might also remember to breathe. We forget to breathe. You'll find yourself holding your breath sometimes during the day. So we've induced an expansion. We've induced an expansion of sorts, and that's already changing our musculature, our body, our state of mind. And then we sat in absolute stillness and silence, and think about how rarely we do that. How rarely we sit in absolute stillness and silence. And if you are the director of this orchestra that we call a human being, then at that point you have directed this orchestra. It's your orchestra, and you are the conductor to take this moment of stillness and silence. And we do a million things during the day. We do all sorts of things. We read, we talk, we laugh, we cry, we build things, we create things, we do all sorts of things. And add to that mix of things you do every day moments of absolute stillness and silence. And I say absolute because, we can sit. Okay, I'm sitting, I'm not doing anything, but that's different than this. And if you don't do that a lot, it can be very strange. It seems weird. If you ever see someone doing it, they look weird. What's wrong with them, So it's just another way of dramatically indicating to your body, sending a message to your body and your very being that we're changing. Something's different. Something's different. Change is beautiful. When you recognize that you can change, then you have control over your existence. When you recognize that you can alter, the direction of your consciousness, then it's a wonderful feeling because you don't feel so victimized by circumstances. You go, well, if I'm overly contracted, I can change that. I can expand. So we're going to do this one more time. Again, this is the preliminary stage, and then we'll move into the zones, as I call them, of muscles that you can incrementally release. So here we go. Squeeze your hands together. Again, you could do this anytime, anywhere. This is the great thing. I always start this way because it just reminds me that what we're talking about is contraction and expansion. Just gets that in my mind, in my system. And over the years, I've started to just look at my life in that way. Am I contracted? Am I expanded? Sometimes I can't control it. Sometimes I'm doing something, I'm contracting, I'm obsessively watching the news or whatever. I go, okay, this is a major contraction. And it's making me feel really bad, but I can't seem to stop. And that's right. We can be obsessive about things. And sometimes, as I say, the hardest thing to do is to let go. It's the hardest thing with this process, with scanning, is starting. Because then we are admitting to ourselves that we've made a decision to let go. And why do we hold on? It's security. We watch the news, we read the newspaper, we do the obsessive things we do out of fear. They make us feel secure, like we're taking control. So the last thing you want to do is let go. So I may be aware that I'm contracted. That doesn't mean I can necessarily stop contracting. The reason I practice so obsessively is it's building the discipline in me to not only understand the difference between contraction and expansion in my life, but to be able to make that choice more readily. So I can recognize it more quickly and not go down the rabbit hole. And we all know that when you go deep down into the rabbit hole of contraction, it can be a complete and utter prison that's difficult to escape. And there's many levels to that. We could talk about it later. So let's just do this one more time, this preliminary step, and then we'll move on. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. That's contraction. And now already I can feel that my muscles are more relaxed. This doesn't feel uncomfortable. My muscles have already relaxed a little bit. So squeeze tight, tight, tight. Okay? And then on my count, you're going to completely release the tension in your hands. Drop your hands, take 3 deep breaths, followed by 60 seconds, a full minute of absolute stillness and silence. So here we go. Tight, tight, tight. 3, 2, 1, and release. Feel the difference? You just expanded. Drop your hands into your lap. Take 3 deep breaths. Make it 5. Even the breaths are easier to take now because my muscles have relaxed. 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Thirty more seconds. Ten more seconds. Deep breath. So now let's move kind of quickly, because again, I'm hearing the gardeners outside, so I think we might not be able to go for much longer. Let's move into what I call the incremental release of muscular tension. We've done the preliminary. Now we're going to move into the actual muscle work. Again, the muscles will guide you. If you can release muscular tension, that will induce a state of expansion into your entire body that will build and grow. And you will eventually influence your mind to also release these thoughts, and you will be left in a state of emptiness, stillness, quiet, and calm. So we start with zone 1, the face. On my count, just like the hands, I want you to release all the tension in your face. Watch my face. 3, 2, 1, and release. You feel that drooping? If you can feel that sensation, then you have expanded. And we're not looking for a major change. We're just looking for the slightest, ever so slight change. What's not important is how much. What is important is that you experience that shift. That means you've moved. And again, you can't contract and expand at the same time. So if you've expanded, you've moved. You've stopped contracting to the same degree that you have started expanding. Again, we're just trying to move ourselves back to center. The face, 3, 2, 1, and release. Zone 2 is the top of the head. Think about the top of the head, and on my count, just release whatever tension you can experience or feel in the top of your head. 3, 2, 1, and release. And I felt my brow sort of relax, and I felt a drooping sensation. That's all you're looking for. Just watch for that slight change. Zone 3, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. And if you can imagine that something, your skin, your muscles, your fascia, as they call it, which is the very thin layer that lies between the muscles, that they've been tense and they've just relaxed. It's as if you have a crinkled shirt and you pass a steamer over it. What happens? It just relaxes. That's what you're doing. Piece by piece, you're starting to let go. So the back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. Moving right into the neck, 3, 2, 1, and let it go. Release. And everything just drops. And you start to become conscious as you practice this technique of where you're holding tension. Now, sometimes it's very difficult to let go of tension in your body. You may go, I'm tense, but I can't. That's why I got to go to a masseuse. I got to go to a chiropractor. I got to drink, a shot of whiskey, something to make me relax. I can't do it. So what we're learning here, what we're learning with this technique is you can do it. You just have to think incrementally. So just think about your neck and think about releasing the tiniest amount of tension. If anything, just let go of the holding thought in your mind that's keeping it that way. So the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. And you'll start to get better and better at turning that switch. Basically what you're doing is you're turning off the power to the muscle. Contracting a muscle takes energy. That's why we're so exhausted at the end of the day, where sometimes maybe we've just been sitting in an office all day working. Well, I've just been sitting. But the fact is you've been holding a state of suspended tension, and that takes energy. So if you cut off the source of that energy to that muscle, if you say, I'm not going to power that muscle, the muscle has no energy to contract, so it just lets go. So you're learning how to flip that switch. That's one of the reasons I snap, because it's a decision to let go. It's a way of directing yourself. A forceful conductor will very clearly tell the orchestra, and stop, and go. They're very clear in their instructions to the orchestra. And so you want to be clear in your instructions to your body. You want to be decisive. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. and you'll get better and better at this. Zone 5 is the shoulders. Let them drop on your count. 3, 2, 1, and release. So now you've done the face, the top of the head, the back of the head, the neck, and the shoulders. Do them all together. 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. One more. One more. 15 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. So take a moment and just register how you've changed. What changes are you feeling as a result of what we've done so far? Well, let's say you came in at a level 10 of contraction, tension, or stiffness or whatever. Have you moved the dial at all? Do you feel any differences? I hope you have. If you haven't, that's okay. A lot of times, like I said, just do it. Just keep practicing this, and at some point there'll be what I call a breakthrough. Your body will go, oh, I see where you're going. I see what you're trying to do here. Okay, let's go there. But watch for just the slightest change. If you went from a 10 to a 9.8, that's great. Any amount of change indicates to you that you have the power to induce that change, and your body will start to shift. And sometimes when I'm practicing, it seems virtually impossible. My body is just screaming at me, I can't let go. I won't let go. And that's a time when you just keep going. You keep practicing. Because if you listen to your body is made this decision to contract. It doesn't want to let go. So if you hear your body saying, no, not now, I can't, and you go, oh, okay, then you're not the master, the conductor of your body. What you say at that point is, I know you don't want to relax. I know you don't feel like letting go. I know you're afraid. I know you're depressed. I know you want to stay in that suspended state of contraction. But I know better. So we're just going to keep doing this. And sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes 15 minutes. It's just typical for me, 15 minutes. Sometimes it takes a half an hour. But if you build the discipline of expansion, 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 eventually your body gives in and it lets go and you expand. And you feel all this muscular tension, all this mental tension and confusion just float away. And you get to that state where we all want to be, which is a neutral, calm, still, quiet, peaceful, clear, open space. So we're building a discipline here, and you're sort of at war with your own body. And I don't mean that in a negative way. There's a real struggle for who's in charge here. And your body can be in charge, and your instincts can be in charge, and you can let them pull you around through life until you feel like, as I say, you need a chemical expansion. You can't possibly control it, so you take a drink or you smoke a joint or whatever. Or you can say, no, I can do this. And you build that discipline of expansion, of release. So zone 5, the shoulders, let them drop. 3, 2, 1, and release. Zone 6 is the chest, the stomach, and the front of the waist. Just let that plate of armor that you carry around with you go. 3, 2, 1, and release. And zone 7 is down the back and into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. And see how much tension you can let go in these areas. See if you can flip that switch to go from this, 3, 2, 1, to this. That's all you're doing. From this to this. Watch my face. From this to this. That's the skill you're developing. Zone 8 is down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. And think about your feet for a moment. And see if you can direct your attention to your feet and actually feel them. Because sometimes we go, I don't know what my feet feel like unless they hurt. But you can build a consciousness and awareness of the sensations in different parts of your body. You can start to tune in to your knee, to your elbow. This is a wonderful practice because you can actually help the healing process if you've been injured. And this happened to me many, many years ago. I actually tore a calf muscle shooting a TV show. And they said I'd be out for like a couple of weeks. And I went to someone, a network chiropractor he was called at the time, who induced a throbbing of sorts. And he did that by very lightly touching the area and asking me to focus my energy on the area. And I began to feel a throbbing. And that throbbing was the blood rushing to that area. I had actually directed my body to heal itself. And it healed itself much more rapidly. And in 3 days, I was back on my feet. So this ability to focus your awareness into different parts of your body is an essential part of scanning. And it's also very healing. When you learn to heal yourself, to cure yourself, to direct your healing energy to various parts of your body. So think about your feet, and as you think about them, see if you can begin to make them throb, which typically they will when you think about them. I'm feeling it now. So on my count, I want you to release whatever tension you can in your feet. Just think about that change from this to this, from this to this. The feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. And one more time, the feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. So I'm not going to lie to you, this is a discipline. It's very easy to learn, it's very easy to practice. It's difficult to stay with because, again, you're going to come up against your own resistance. The problems we have in life tend to come from holding on, refusal to let go, because life flows, and when you get stuck, when you're holding on to things, you tend to get hung up and stuck. You can't get past a certain idea or concern or worry or circumstances that you've had in the past. You can't let them go. You can't let go of the possibility that you might fail. You obsess on that. We try to control. So it's very, very difficult sometimes to let go. And you'll feel resistance. I feel resistance every time I go to do this because my body instinctively contracts to protect itself. So much of what we do in life is fear-based, fear-based. We have a reaction, a natural, instinctive, physical reaction to contract, to form a suit of armor, either physical, mental, or emotional, that will protect us in a very fearful, frequently, sometimes wonderful, but frequently fearful world. So you're up against your own instincts. But you can master those instincts. And as I say, be the conductor of your own orchestra by practicing the incremental release of muscular tension. It's a very simple, you might call it entry-level way of changing your consciousness. An entry-level way. There's nothing simpler than letting go of muscles. Certain muscles, others are harder. But the hands, 3, 2, 1, release, it's just something we can do. We go, oh, I can do that. If you said to someone, I'm going to help you, and they go, no, I can't do anything. And I said, well, can you do this? 3, 2, 1, release. They go, well, yeah. And I say, start there. Start there. Start by building a consciousness of your own ability to release, to expand, to open up. Now, I'm going to end today by telling you something, and I'm going to be honest with you because I think it relates to this practice, and it's why I practice it so obsessively. You know, in these times, you can go through many emotional states. You can be agitated, angry, you can be upset and things. But one of the things you can experience is depression, deep depression. And it can be debilitating because it closes you off to the world and to yourself, and you become locked into a deep state, a hole, a cave from which you cannot seem to extract yourself. And I experience that sometimes when I have worries or concerns. And you think, well, depression, that's not agitation or concern or worry, but depression, I want to make this very clear, is a contraction, a pulling in. It's another form of self-defense, a pulling in, a pulling away from the world, from things you don't want to think about, things you don't want to experience, things you're afraid of, things you don't like, things that are unpleasant, you don't want to see or have in your life. So you contract, you pull in like an armadillo, you roll into a ball and you close off. Now that's not healthy, and it feels terrible, and yet we don't know how to escape it, and it can just become self-perpetuating, and pretty soon you're really messed up. So I experience that occasionally, like everybody. But what I've realized, I didn't think that was related to this practice. I realized it's totally related to this practice. And if you think about it, this contraction is the same as any other contraction. It fits into the paradigm perfectly, as well as anything else. You have contracted. But you don't think of it as a muscular contraction, depression. So you go, well, this isn't going to work. I'm not trying to relax. Sometimes when you're depressed, you feel lackadaisical, like you don't feel like you want to do anything. Well, that's not tense. Well, no, it is. You've emotionally contracted. And I would suggest to you, and I practice this now, and this is why I really wanted to bring it up, because it works. If you feel depressed, if you feel down, that you practice scanning, that you practice the incremental release of muscular tension. And you may think, but I'm not contracted, I'm lethargic. Try it. You'll be amazed. You are contracted. And as you start to do the incremental release of muscular tension in all these zones, taking deep breaths, sit in stillness and silence, you'll start to feel a release of that depressed contraction. You'll start to feel yourself opening up. The depression will alleviate, open, expand, and you will be free of that prison you've built for yourself emotionally and mentally through the acts of depression, the contraction of depression. Try it. I recommend it. I mean, like I say, we all get in bad moods. You can call it depression, you can call it in a funk, you can call it whatever you want, but it's an emotional contraction, okay? It's different, it's hard to recognize, but it is a contraction. So my recommendation is that with any of these bad feelings, you try to expand. You try to release muscular tension as a guide towards expanding your entire consciousness, and see if it works for you, particularly the breaths and stillness and silence. but again, specifically muscular release. And you will feel so much resistance because, again, once you're in a deeply contracted state, typically it's a protective state. It's like a puppy hiding in the corner. It doesn't want to come out because it feels threatened by life. But if you can begin to expand, you'll see that you can lift that contraction. You can lift that depression just like you can lift anxiety or concerns or physical tension. You can lift it. You can be free again, which is what we all want to be, is emotionally, physically, and mentally free. Then we can approach life with a clear mind, an open, relaxed body, and we can successfully navigate the challenges we face. So that's it for today. It's called Sqanning, Sqanning. Sqanning is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. Incremental. Start small. All you need is to feel the change. It's not how much, it's that you feel it. So I'll repost this on my Facebook page briefly, and then I take it off here and move it over to the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning. So if you missed any or all of the session, want to watch it again, or just catch up, feel free. All my sessions are posted on Sqanning. I only keep one a day for briefly on my Facebook page, but on the Sqanning page, they're there all the time. Every day's different. And I try to bring whatever I've learned the previous day to the session, but it's all pretty much the same every session. Just expand. And I end every session with rule number 1, love yourself. Love is the most expansive act you can take in the universe because it involves letting go of all preconceived notions, opening up and embracing what is, and that includes everything that you are, for better or worse. When you're expanded, when you're permeable, you can merge with life and with others, as opposed to when you're contracted and everything is a conflict. You don't want that. Expand and join in. So that's it. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for visiting. I try to come once a day, but it varies. But I'd love to see you again sometime if you'd like to come. Otherwise, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.